Welcome back to Axis of Truth. It's been a crazy week here in the Middle East as U.S.-Iran tensions continue to grow. Now, can it actually get worse in Iran? Well, the regime is doing absolutely everything they can to make that a reality. Now, this week, I've obtained a series of secret documents from August 2025, which were distributed to senior members of the regime long before the uprising in December began. They detail a sinister 8-year plan by the Islamic Republic to shut off the internet permanently and isolate the country, looking to China as an example. This proves the Islamic Republic has been preparing for years to permanently reshape the Iranian internet, not as a temporary security response, but as a long-term architecture of repression. The documents, which were submitted to Saeed Mohammed Amin Aghamiri, the head of Iran's National Cyberspace Center, the body that's responsible for internet governance, filtering, and enforcement. Now, just for context, as protests spread, international reporting has documented mass killings, mass arrests, and prolonged nationwide internet blackouts, making reporting extremely difficult. Approximately 40,000 protesters already have been killed, and the extreme throttling of the internet is very clearly designed to prevent organizing and stop the evidence of abuses from reaching the world. These documents explain why. In the regime's own language, reliance on foreign technology is described as an existential threat. Messaging apps, VPN, cloud services, and foreign software are all labeled in these documents instruments of intelligent containment in the hands of hostile powers. The solution? What the authors repeatedly call zero foreign dependency. That means eliminating foreign technology across nearly every layer of modern life. Fiber networks, data centers, telecommunication systems, operating systems, cloud platforms, office software, artificial intelligence tools, messaging apps, email services, video conferencing platforms, and yes, social media. Telegram, WhatsApp, Gmail, Zoom, Instagram, X, all the above explicitly targeted by this plan. The plan calls for what it describes as a gradual but irreversible transition to total domestic control. And crucially, it insists this system must be placed beyond democratic change, because governments and parliaments can change. But control of cyberspace must be anchored in institutions that are loyal to the supreme leader, insulated from elections entirely. That authority would sit with Iran's National Cyberspace Center, which the documents describe as the central engine of enforcement operating above the ministries with sweeping regulatory power, as well as independent funding and coordination across security and intelligence bodies. Now, these documents also call for mandatory use of regime-approved platforms enforced by law. Using foreign platforms or VPNs, especially in sensitive sectors, would be treated as a criminal offense. Managers and officials who failed to comply could face dismissal or prison. Violations are described in these documents as crimes against digital sovereignty. Now, AI also plays a central role in this system. The plan calls for a national AI cloud, domestic GPU farms, centralized data platforms, facial recognition, behavioral analysis, and automated digital decision-making, staffed by hundreds of thousands of trained personnel. And this is where Huawei becomes impossible to ignore. Well, the documents themselves don't name Huawei directly. Iranian cybersecurity experts who reviewed these documents with me said that Huawei's involvement is critical to the regime's ability to execute this plan. One of the experts explained that Huawei already controls a significant share of Iran's core telecommunications and cloud infrastructure, and that the regime's push towards a closed national information network, as they call it, relies heavily on deep packet inspection and filtering capabilities, technology widely associated with Huawei systems. This matters because deep packet inspection is not just about blocking websites. It enables mass surveillance, content filtering at scale, behavioral tracking, and precise identification of users that are attempting to evade censorship. Now, Huawei's connection to Iran isn't actually new. U.S. prosecutors have previously alleged that Huawei provided surveillance technology enabling Iranian authorities to monitor protesters in the past. These are allegations that are cited in federal indictments. Against that backdrop, Iranian activists and diaspora groups are now calling for a global boycott of Huawei, arguing that the corporate complicity must have consequences when governments fail to act. But the implications go far beyond only Iran. The documents also suggest that the Islamic Republic is actively attempting to wall itself off from the global internet while retaining sophisticated tools of control over its own population. If successful, this model could become a blueprint for authoritarian regimes worldwide, crushing dissent while preserving the economic benefits of digitization. Now, for Iranians on the ground, the message is stark. What were once emergency internet shutdowns are being institutionalized. Blackouts, filtering, forced migration to regime platforms, and criminalization of circumvention tools are meant to become permanent features of daily life. This is about power, control, and deliberate construction of a digital prison where resistance is harder, visibility disappears, and the cost of speaking out becomes unbearable. But since this is all pretty technical, let me break down the 5 core objectives of this 8-year plan, parts of which have already been implemented. First, it replaces the open internet with a state-controlled intranet. Iran isn't just blocking sites during protests. The plan is to permanently cut Iranians off from global internet and force them onto a closed domestic network that's run by the regime. Now, foreign platforms don't just get restricted, they get phased out. The second thing is that it forces people onto those regime-approved apps and services, messaging apps like WhatsApp, Telegram, email like Gmail, social media, Instagram, X, etc., even video calls like Zoom are all targeted. Iranians would legally be required to use state-approved alternatives. Using foreign apps or VPNs, especially in sensitive areas, would be a crime, not a workaround. Which brings us to the third objective. It criminalizes how people currently stay connected. VPNs and circumvention tools, as well as encrypted services, the tools Iranians rely on right now to speak freely, would be explicitly illegal. All of them. The plan calls for punishments not just for users, but for managers, officials, and institutions that don't enforce compliance upon others. The fourth thing it does is it builds a surveillance system powered by AI. The regime plans to centralize this data and use AI to monitor behavior, including facial recognition, online activity tracking, and automated decision-making. And finally, it locks all of this in permanently, and this is the most important part. It's designed to outlast any future government. Control over the internet would sit with institutions that are loyal only to the Ayatollah, not even elected officials. That means no reform, no rollback, and no accountability. Unless, of course, the regime falls, which is what we're all waiting for.